On the surface, it is a player's paradise. From the floor of a casino to the ledge of a cliff, Las Vegas action is everywhere. Trouble is, not all of it is fun.
Innovation trade.
Because sometimes, too much sun, too much anger, and too much hopelessness can boil over in the desert heat. Out here in the high desert, miles outside Las Vegas, miles from the nearest big city hospital, rescue from the elements depends on fast action.
Drugs are on board. You guys need to be ready.
Get sections. Basically, we almost bring the emergency room to the patient.
That's the job of Flight for Life, a Las Vegas-based helicopter ambulance service. For patients battling emergency situations in the Nevada desert,
You got a stat going at all?
Flight for Life is often the only thing between them and disaster.
This is a job where you know for a fact at the end of the day that you probably did have a hand in saving somebody's life.
Flight for Life responds to the whole gamut of calls. It can be anything from a fractured ankle of somebody that's on a mountain to traumatic motor vehicle accidents, heart attacks, childbirth, you name it.
The fleet includes 3 helicopters. The chopper designated as Lifeguard 1 is based at Valley Hospital in Las Vegas. Lifeguard 2 is 46 miles west in Pahrump, Nevada, and Lifeguard 3 is 80 miles north of Las Vegas in Mesquite, Nevada. Between the 3 choppers, Flight for Life covers an area of 120 miles from each base, flying to some of the most isolated parts of 4 states: Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and California.
And the range of Flight for Life is wide and vast. We're constantly going over mountains to get to people in unforeseen areas. Having 3 helicopters, it makes it a lot easier to get to the patients if we need to service.
But the heart of Flight for Life is not its hardware. It is the 50 or so men and women who work as pilots, medics, and nurses.
You got that suction ready?
Flight nurse Serena McIntosh, medic Eric Littman, and pilot Bill Langholtz work together frequently. They wouldn't work anywhere else.
It's wonderful. You get to fly, you get to be there, you really feel like you make a big difference.
This shift, Lifeguard 1 gets a call in the mountains. A teenager is having trouble breathing. Serena, Eric, and Bill are in the air within 2 minutes of the call.
Where we're going, you can see there's a little radome on top of that peak. That's our destination.
By land, the trip to the mountains is close to an hour. But by air, the crew covers the ground in a fraction of that time. They touch down just 16 minutes after getting the call. Serena and Eric hit the ground running. Their first task is to sort through the chaos and get the boys' medical history.
He's not allergic to anything.
That's the only history.
Yeah, that's the only history they had.
The Flight for Life team suspects it might be a serious asthma attack, but the symptoms are confusing. A wrong diagnosis could be disastrous.
Have you ever had a heart attack? You've had a heart attack. Why can't you speak to me? I need you to speak to me.
If you don't talk to me right now, we have to put this tube in you. Tell me your name.
The young man doesn't seem to be getting enough air to talk. Putting a tube down his throat would help him breathe, but it is hard on the patient.
That's it. You with us now?
If possible, the team wants to avoid doing it, but he seems to be getting worse.
How you feeling now? Open your eyes.
Open your eyes. Open your... See, he stopped breathing. He's like not breathing on his own again. And that wasn't his own doing.
For at least 5 seconds, he was completely out, but the medics still can't figure out why.
Nice color change.
Just that he desperately needs air.
And we were right on the border of whether to intubate him or not. But once he had that period of apnea, forget it. We're going to tube him. And bend it down.
Airbag.
Up. All right, I got it.
The tube is in.
All right, I got good misting.
His breathing begins to sound better. After 13 minutes at the scene, the medics still don't know what's wrong with him, only that he's alive. They have to get to the hospital. Fast.
Yeah, we're ready.
Sin City, the neon paradise. where happiness may be only a roll of the dice away. For many, this is a place to bankroll a new start. But for others, it's a place to cash out permanently. Nevada has a dark side. For the last 10 years, it has had the highest suicide rate in the country.
Female unknown age, threatening suicide, unknown method, in room 1620.
Just moments ago, Las Vegas police got a suicide call from a hotel near the Strip.
It's a geriatric patient suicide attempt. She took some pills, down to pills.
The Nevada suicide rate is more than double the national average.
We've had a few unique calls. I mean, unfortunately, we've had guys who've jumped from the hotel buildings. Parking garage, like the big red parking garage down there, we've had a couple jumpers there. We had one down here at Binion's just a little while ago.
The rate is at least one suicide a day.
In Nevada, suicide is a very big problem. In fact, it outnumbers motor vehicle crashes as a cause of death across all ages.
Dr. John Files is the chief trauma surgeon at University Medical Center. He's seen thousands of suicide victims come through his ER.
TMs are clear. No one really knows why suicide rates are so high in Nevada and the other Intermountain states. People often ask if it's due to gambling. Actually, the other state, the lowest state of suicide in the United States is New Jersey, and that's the only other state that had open casino gambling.
Whatever is causing this crisis of despair, Paul Dreyer fell victim to it. When he was just 21, Paul stopped wanting to live.
I'd been thinking about killing myself for well over a year. Just been an ongoing thought, something that just I thought about constantly, daily, day in, day out, all the time.
On the outside, Paul's life seemed perfectly normal. He shared an apartment with a roommate and worked at a sheet metal shop. But on the inside, Paul was deeply depressed.
Life at that time for me was very, very bad. I had a bad job, bad relationship, didn't have any friends, no support system whatsoever.
Despite being on antidepressants, thoughts of suicide haunted Paul constantly. Then, one cold, overcast afternoon in November 1995, he got home from work and started to drink.
I just kind of set the bottle here, and I sat in my chair and listened to the radio. The song on at the time was Elton John. I was just drinking from the bottle straight. I took a couple of the pills. They were Valiums. Took one, then two, and then three, one right after the other. I was chasing them down with the vodka. I was drinking out of the bottle. Then I took the rest of the Valiums, grabbed the, there's a bottle of amitriptyline. There was about 30, 35 pills in there. I just gotten that prescription filled. I ate all those, chased it down with the vodka. So at that time, I'd walked into the living room, feeling the effects of the alcohol and the pills mixed at the same time. I wanted to put in a movie. At the time, my feeling was if I was going to go out, I wanted to go out doing something I truly enjoyed doing. I just thought, well, you know, this is a perfect ending to a terrible day, terrible year, terrible life.
But it wasn't.
Next thing I remembered was hearing the door open. My parents were coming over to visit, and they never ever came to my apartment. The hospital was just a couple of miles away, so I knew that I just had a feeling that they were going to get me there in time and everything was going to be okay.
Paul was right. Doctors in the emergency room saved his life, and everything was okay. Until 4 months later, when he moved in with his parents. In Las Vegas, even an ordinary round of golf can be risky. Daryl Driscoll feels the danger of the desert heat every day, literally.
There's just no getting around it. The sun's going to be out there.
Daryl is a professional golfer and golf pro.
You still hooking the ball?
A little bit.
Oh, I've been playing golf since I was 11 years old, so that's over 22 years.
Each month, 160,000 people play golf at one of Las Vegas's 60 courses. For golfers like Daryl, Vegas is a perfect playground. But there is a danger here that may cost them their lives: skin cancer.
Wow, it's pretty good. I'll spend anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day out here in the sun, depending on how many golf lessons I'm given that day. I could be out here for sometimes 12 hours.
And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes, okay?
Alrighty.
Have a seat.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hey, Mr. Driscoll.
Hey.
How you doing today?
Good.
2 years ago, Dr. Luke Blanchard diagnosed a red growth on Daryl's face as basal cell skin cancer.
We sort of think there's an epidemic of basal cell skin cancer. There's at least 1 million cases of skin cancer a year. 90% of those are basal cell skin cancers. This is where you had the one off before. That looks good.
Basal cell carcinomas clump together and, caught early, are easily removed.
Basal cell skin cancer.
But they can also signal something far more serious, that a patient might be prone to deadly melanoma cancers.
It has a chance of being a little skin cancer, so we probably need time to get a biopsy done on that one.
All right.
Melanoma cells spread fast. By the time the first growth is spotted, it may have already attacked vital organs, such as the liver and lungs, or even the brain.
It was a real eye-opener, and it sent a message to me, you know, you better put on your sunscreen.
Especially in Las Vegas. Here, the number of people who die from melanoma skin cancer is at least 15% higher than the rest of the country.
You know, my concern is that I've seen people within the golf business that have actually lost large portions of their skin and their face as a result of skin cancer.
That looks good. The one on your nose is staying away.
Which is why he's back for a checkup. It's been 6 months since Daryl's last visit to the doctor, and he's not sure if his cancer is gone. He'll find out next. About 20 miles outside Las Vegas, a man is in the water at Lake Mead and appears to be in trouble. But he isn't.
Hi, how are you? All right. Okay.
This is practice for the unique team of rangers who patrol 290 square miles of water.
Can you remember what happened?
Yeah, I fell off my jet ski.
Because there's a downside to all this natural beauty: danger.
We unfortunately usually lead the pack in the nation for the National Park Service as far as the number of fatalities. I believe last year's numbers were around 20, 25. It's been as high as about 54 a year.
Lake Mead is the only national park in the country patrolled by a staff of rangers who are all licensed emergency medical technicians.
And that's what we consider the baseline to do this job, because we have so much EMS that you need to be able to do that.
Including the surrounding land, Lake Mead is one of the 5 largest national parks in the United States.
Lake Mead represents 9.1 million acres of land. There's 960 miles of shoreline, over 400 coves.
The state of Rhode Island could fit inside this park twice.
In fact, this basin here itself, going across is 8 miles, and the length over here is over 12 miles long. And that's not even the biggest basin within this park. So it's a huge area to try to manage and go out and deal with.
Last year, over 300 accidents were reported on and around the lake. Many of them serious.
Broken bones, lacerations, trauma to the head. Propellers make very good meat cutters, and unfortunately people get cut up pretty bad by those. And those are very dramatic injuries to deal with, and you don't have much time.
With 950 miles of shoreline to patrol, the park rangers are trained as cops, paramedics, firefighters, and scuba divers. They risk their lives daily for a pittance of a paycheck.
There's an old saying about what we get paid, and rangers get paid in sunrises and sunsets.
Whatever's needed, they'll try to do, especially out on the water, where many of the worst accidents happen.
This area right here is called Government Wash. There's a public launch ramp straight off my bow. Usually what happens is as you look over here to the shoreline, everyone just basically backs in their vehicle and their trailer into the water. And they usually go about 60, 65, 85 feet away from the shoreline and just go totally berserk.
People party too much and they fall off their boats, they overdose, they alcohol poisoning. We have a lot of boat accidents in this area, jet skis, run into the big houseboats. You name it with water, you name it with boats, we have it here.
Jet skiers are a constant source of concern on the lake. An inexperienced driver going too fast is a dangerous equation.
This is not a good idea.
Minutes ago, a boy swimming in an inner tube near his family's boat had a close call with a careless jet skier.
If you get this happening, just throttle down. See what happens? They'd go somewhere else and find someone else's wake to jump.
Park Ranger Ryan Regnell wants the family to move further away from the shoreline and out of the reach of the jet skis.
There's over 110 miles of lake. I would go out and I would find a spot where you could recreate safely towing your boy. Take care of your children, they're number one.
Then Ryan finds the driver of the jet ski.
You know why I'm here?
The rules of the lake require jet skiers to stay at least 5 boat lengths away from swimmers.
Well, why are you crowding on top of him? Yeah, you were.
This driver was too close and riding in circles around the boy in the inner tube.
You're under 5 boat lengths. All you guys are circling that kid in that tube. Bad news.
Since the jet ski is a rental, the driver may be a novice. For everyone's protection, Ranger Regnell makes him go through a safety check.
Bring me the fire extinguisher. Pop it out and take a look at it.
Meanwhile, at the west end of the lake, the big concern is people jumping off the steep cliffs.
This is the upper gypsum wash area at the west end of the lake. It's a series of peninsulas that form out into the lake here, and there are cliffs along the edges of each of them, and people like to jump off them just for fun. They don't realize the dangers, they don't know what might be underneath the water.
Mark Biggins is an owner of an ambulance service that works with the rangers at Lake Mead.
Imagine this is your head and you're diving, you hit something, and everything from here gets pushed down. It can cause immediate unconsciousness. These people get hurt pretty bad.
With a staff of just 48 full-time rangers, patrolling the entire park 24 hours a day is close to impossible. But they do their best.
Some of the areas of the park are 24 hours a day. Other parts of the area are really extended shifts. Some of the rangers are actually required to live within the boundaries of the park, so they're immediately available for any type of emergency call out.
There is no predicting when the rangers might be needed. It may not be for hours or even days, or it may be in the next blink of an eye. With more than 9 million visitors a year, the rangers are always on the alert. Las Vegas is the fastest growing city in the United States. Since the 1980s, the population has quadrupled from 350,000 to 1.4 million. Las Vegas is becoming a big city with big city problems, including gangs. Since 1994, the number of gangs has almost tripled, from 119 to 310, and the number of gang members has doubled from 5,000 to 10,000. 22-year-old Chris Banghart knows. He grew up in the kind of place tourists don't see.
My old neighborhood reminds me of a dark period of my life where I wasn't sure of who I am or what I wanted to be or who my real friends are, or even if my family loved me.
Chris tried to find that love in a gang. His hands still bear the tattoos.
I think the main reason I joined the gang or even got into the gang scene was because my family life was very unstable at that time, and I just moved here, and my dad was in the military, so I was all over the place. So I guess the really most accepting people are those gangbangers, so I kind of clicked to them, and it seems like they had all the popularity and the girls and stuff, so that's pretty much why.
His tattoos read West on one hand and Side on the other, a reference to the West Side gang he joined in 1994. In 7th grade, Chris was suspended from school for an entire semester for beating up a student. By the time he was 17, he had a juvenile record that included 2 arrests for vandalism and theft. He was heading down a bad stretch of road. Then, one day, he realized he had another choice.
Everything was going downhill, and that's when I realized the best thing for me to do is get out of the gang and join the military.
But when he tried to sign up for the Air Force, they wouldn't take him because of his tattoos.
When you're a gangbanger, you want to be gangbanger, you just think you're tough, you think you're a tough guy, nobody can take you down. So you put it on your hands so everybody can see, and now I don't want anybody to see it, you know?
Chris had to get the tattoos removed, but he didn't have the money to do it.
Okay, Chris, how you doing? Good.
Which is when Chris met a man who offered him a generous gift. A top Las Vegas plastic surgeon said he would remove the tattoos that were threatening to ruin Chris's future.
Diminishing. It was starting to really lighten up.
It's been less than 45 minutes since Flight for Life answered an emergency call in the mountains, and they are already back on the ground at Las Vegas's Valley Hospital. Their patient is stable, but still having trouble breathing.
Breathe and then even stop.
This is a strange call.
Serena McIntosh and Eric Littman hand over the young man to the ER doctors, where they'll be able to make a thorough diagnosis. And for the moment, Lifeguard One's job is done.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We did everything we could. We're just one small link in the chain.
The 24-hour-a-day Las Vegas lifestyle means that these airborne medics can get an emergency call at any time. And they do.
We'll get anything at any time of the day where you go to some cities, you know, they pretty much shut down at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, but it's not uncommon for you to get back-to-back calls starting at 2 in the morning and fly until you get off.
The typical Flight for Life crew includes 3 people, a pilot, a nurse, and a paramedic.
It makes for a great medical team because the paramedics know what's going on with scenes, and nurses are used to taking care of patients in the hospital on gurneys, but not used to running around in the desert, you know, out where there's a rollover, and the medics, that's their expertise.
Our shifts start from 6:30 in the morning till 6:30 at night, then 6:30 at night till 6:30 in the morning.
Flight for Life responds to more than 100 emergency calls each month. But in between, the nurses and medics often assist in the hospital whenever doctors have their hands full.
Is it going?
It's going good.
Hey, this is Serena with Flights. Did you guys page me?
They have extra training and can fill in on jobs hospital nurses can't do.
The Flight for Life people, their role is pretty much everything. They do a little bit of everything. They incubate the people, they'll help put in the central lines, they'll help with the respiratory, they'll help with the CPR, they'll help with pushing medications and stuff. They help with everything.
Serena's patient is an elderly woman with emphysema.
She's a challenge, which is, of course, why they called us, because if she was easy, they wouldn't have called us. I think this one's been stuck about 20 times by the lab, huh? The question I have to ask myself is, do I feel lucky? All right, here we go, honey.
2 days earlier, another crew flew in this patient from Pahrump.
You feeling better, obviously. Yeah. Are they going to let you go soon?
No.
Not that much better. Okay. You look better. Just got to convince the doctors of that, huh?
Serena finishes up and heads back to the staging area. The next call could come at any moment. And coming up, out at Lake Mead, a flash flood watch has just been issued. The Rangers must spread the word. Despite the gaudy megawatts along the Las Vegas Strip, life here isn't always bright. The suicide rate is double the national average. 1 suicide every day. After attempting suicide in 1995, Paul Dreyer moved back home to his family. But he didn't get along with his parents, and his girlfriend dumped him. Less than 6 months later, he again tried to kill himself. This time, he started drinking, and then he slashed his wrists with a box cutter.
And I remember walking down through the hallway and the blood just kind of fanning out in whatever direction I had turned my hand. I just was walking like this. When I got to about the entrance of the living room, I didn't stop. I was still walking, and I had this razor, and I was pounding it into my wrist. Just pounding it. I wasn't slashing. It was just a pounding.
At the kitchen sink, Paul tried to wash away the blood, but it just kept coming. He'd planned this moment, but then it suddenly filled him with terror.
At that point, I staggered back just a couple of steps, and I remember falling backwards and hitting the floor. Next thing I remember after that was my mother coming into the room and her screaming, "Oh my God," as loud as, I mean, it was like a scream from a horror movie. It was horrible.
For the second time, Paul was rushed to the hospital.
A suicide attempt is a cry for help.
Dorothy Bryant and her volunteers staff the hotline at the Suicide Prevention Center.
Hello?
24 hours a day, they take calls from people like
How
Paul,
old is your sister?
people desperate for help.
She's 23. Tell them exactly how many pills you think she took.
The hotline receives 5,000 to 6,000 calls per year, 8 calls per shift.
Probably the #1 reason why people contemplate suicide is a loss. It can be a loss of a loved one, a loss of a job, a loss of family, a loss of money in this town.
Taking calls from people who want to kill themselves gives volunteers like Darlene Underhill vital insight.
I think Nevada, specifically Las Vegas, has one of the highest suicide rates because we have such a transient population.
People come here for a lot of the construction jobs, and they're here maybe for a period of only 18 months to maybe 2.5 years. Not long enough to establish real positive relationships, and therefore when the going gets rough, the family isn't around, and there's no place to turn.
And of course we have lots of alcohol and gambling. Those are two addictive things that don't help. Martha, I was telling you about Chris and some of the problems we've been having. I don't know if there's any...
Darlene volunteers with the hotline because she has personal experience with the tragedy of suicide.
8 years ago, I lost a son to suicide, and if someone had been there for him, I might still have him. My son was 32 when he took his own life with a gun. He had actually attempted it a year previous. I think he was unhappy that he couldn't find the perfect woman to marry. Do you have brothers and sisters here, or... Oh, you just moved here about 2 years ago. Okay, and...
Her son's suicide had a profound effect on everyone who knew him.
You oftentimes think that the only person that's a victim of suicide is the person themselves who dies, but actually it's the family that's left that are the true victims. You go through a great deal of soul searching as, I should have, I could have, why didn't I?
Is there a way to save all potential suicides? A select team of researchers has been investigating how to prevent suicide for 3 years. Now, they may finally have some answers. Lifeguard 1 has returned to the mountains after getting a second emergency call. This time, the Flight for Life medical team is Mike Worthen and Jennifer Wakeman. The same teenager has had another mysterious attack.
Reports are that he's unconscious, unresponsive, so we're just going to go there and assess the patient and see what we find out.
The situation is still very confusing.
Could be a number of things, you know. He could have hyperventilated and passed out. Could be anxiety.
It seems impossible, but the boy is showing signs of a heart attack.
Shabar, stay on the bed. Are you having any pain right here in your chest? You are? Is it a dull pain or sharp pain? Just up in here on the left side?
Flight for Life spends as little time at the scene as necessary. Their goal is to stabilize him and transport him as fast as possible to urgent care. After barely 15 minutes on the ground, they're ready. One life is saved, but before the day is out, the Flight for Life medics will be back in the air.
Since being diagnosed with skin cancer, I've had to think about more what I buy and what I wear and be more conscious of things.
24-year-old Crystal Duke has a closet full of clothes and nothing to wear.
Simple things just like this shirt would show scars that I already have, plus new ones that I couldn't have, the new one on my chest. Other things like sundress shows a lot of skin, so you're gonna see a lot of white, and it's just not really attractive to see that much white skin, at least in my eyes.
Crystal can't escape her white skin even at work.
Hi, Jen.
She is a waitress at a popular local restaurant. Her uniform, a black polo shirt and shorts, makes her even more self-conscious.
I feel like the hardest part about not being tan is you don't feel like on the same level as other people with a tan. It's like everything looks better with a tan.
Crystal doesn't dare tan, and she doesn't dare leave the house without sunscreen. 4 years ago, she discovered she was another victim of the high rate of skin cancer in Las Vegas.
You guys ready to order?
She was diagnosed with basal cell carcinoma, the most common type of skin cancer in the country. Dr. Luke Blanchard sees it every day.
The rate of skin cancer in Las Vegas is probably a little higher because we're a very image-conscious city. The people who are competing for these high-paying jobs do need to look like a Las Vegas image.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Crystal has lived in Las Vegas for most of her life, and she felt the intense heat of that social pressure early on. By the age of 15, she was tanning regularly.
I love the way tan skin looks, and it seems like all my friends were always tan and I was like wasn't. So I think I got a little bit obsessed about that.
Nice slow swing, kind of get it going down the line a little bit longer. Left and right.
But unlike Daryl Driscoll, who spent a lot of time out on the golf course, Crystal's exposure to harmful rays didn't just come from the sun. It happened in 30-minute increments, 4 and 5 times a week at the tanning salon where she worked.
I started working at a tanning salon when I was 16. It was my summer job, and I just said, hey, that'll be fun. And then I thought I could get free tans. This is great. So I started tanning a lot.
There is a marked increase in tanning salons, especially in a place like Las Vegas. They advertise it as being safe, which is probably not true. The statistics show that people who go to tanning booths are getting a higher rate of skin cancer.
For the next 4 years, Crystal never worried about tanning at the salon. Then, it was too late.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, honey.
My first skin cancer was right here on my clavicle bone. Hi, Amy. Hi. How are ya?
Crystal was just 19 when she discovered that first small red patch.
I didn't realize it was skin cancer at the time. It was like my skin was a little red and a little rough in that area, real small. I just thought it was like irritated or a scratch or something. Didn't pay much attention to it. I didn't go to the doctor till I was about 20 and was diagnosed with skin cancer at that point. Ready? Yeah.
Since her first diagnosis, Crystal has had 2 carcinomas removed. But 3 weeks ago, she found 2 new spots. Next, she'll find out if her cancer is back. The daily gamble of life in Las Vegas keeps the University Medical Center emergency room constantly busy. But not all of the patients are sick or victims of accidents.
Jason, you awake?
Chief Trauma Surgeon Dr. John Files sees 2 to 5 suicide attempts every week.
This is a trauma resuscitation area. We see about 10,000 patients a year here, and over 100 of those are suicides. Kinds of suicide patients that we see in the trauma center are gunshot wounds, stab wounds, people who jump, or people may try to hang themselves.
The growing number of deaths inspired Dr. Files to create something brand new, a suicide prevention program.
Well, we're the first suicide prevention center ever, and our goal is to pioneer the creation of tools that can be used to characterize and study suicide and to deliver prevention strategies for suicide.
Now, with this study,
the Las Vegas Suicide Prevention Research Center is just a small office
Something additional.
with only a handful of workers.
Did it show anything on a CAT scan?
Compiling statistics on suicide isn't very exciting, but the effort has produced some thought-provoking results.
The individual who may attempt suicide once and then for undetermined reasons never attempt again, they really possess the elements of the cure. They possess really some of the things that we need to apply in injury control programs.
According to the center's research, most suicides in the Las Vegas area occur on weekdays, either early in the morning or in the evening hours.
We've also looked at the data regarding New Year's Eve and Christmas, some of the other major holidays and birth dates, and we find that they really do not have big peaks as most people think.
The center also found that women attempt suicide more frequently, but men are more likely to complete their attempts.
They're usually between the ages of 20 and 45. They are usually white or Native Americans. And that would make up probably 2/3 of the group of individuals who complete suicides in our state. But no one is safe.
Suicide is a growing trend among senior citizens and is now one of the top 10 causes of death among children between the ages of 10 and 14. Dr. Files believes it might be possible to find ways to prevent suicide just as we find ways to minimize other injuries.
We have efforts against drunk driving, we have efforts against injury to children, bicycle helmets, car seats, safety belts, all sorts of projects underway in our community to try to make it a safer place. But there's been so little done to try to help those who attempt or complete suicides and their surviving family members.
The Research Center is currently developing tools to track and study suicide.
Five had bulges and has shown a C2.
To identify places where suicide rates spike highest. Their goal is to get the suicide rate in this part of the country down and to help people before they ever attempt to kill themselves. Daryl Driscoll has never met Crystal Duke. Crystal Duke doesn't know Daryl, but they share a daily ritual, sunscreen, which they both now use several times a day.
Before I even go out in the sun, I put my sunscreen on. I cover my face, I cover my forehead, my nose, my ears, back of the neck. I'll do my arms. Any exposed skin, I'm going to put sunscreen on.
So now I can't go out without sunscreen. If I go to the pool, I have to put sunscreen on like every 45 minutes. I have to be really careful with my skin.
Both Crystal and Daryl have appointments today with Dr. Blanchard. They're going to be checked for new skin cancers.
Okay, and the doctor's going to be with you in just a minute.
There is no such thing as a safe tan. Every bit of sunlight that you get damages the cells to some extent. We encourage people to get as pale as possible. If they have to have a tan look, they can get it out of a bottle. Just check it all out.
Dr. Blanchard removed several suspicious growths from Daryl, but none of them were the deadly melanoma.
Same time, we'll take that little.
He was given a clean bill of health. Until next time.
Well, you look good. Looks like you're doing a good job with the sun.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much.
All right, Doc.
He'll be back every 6 months for the rest of his life.
As people have gotten more and more leisure time and spent more time at the beach, we're seeing these skin cancers in younger and younger people. You look good there. Let's check your back.
People like Crystal, who discovered she had skin cancer at the age of 19.
Yeah, it's got another little basal cell here on the shoulder. The basal cell skin cancer, which is like Crystal has, is the most common type of skin cancer. For those, we usually look for a bump that doesn't heal or gets rough or red or bleeds. Everything else looks good. So what we'll do, the nurse will get them numb.
How are you doing?
All right.
We'll take them out. We'll check them in the laboratory, make sure they're basal cells, that's all there are. This is where we take out very small pieces of skin and check them for the margins to make sure we have it all out. And this gives us the advantage of giving a 99% chance of being cured and also leaving the smallest scar possible. Okay. And then once we have that accomplished, we'll do some plastic surgery on her and sew up the spots so it'll leave little tiny scars. Everything's done except the bandaging, and you did excellent.
Thank you.
The scars will gradually fade. The real question for Crystal is, what will her biopsy reveal?
So what are you going to do? What are you studying?
I'm going to join the Air Force.
Oh, very good. Very good. Excellent.
Former gangbanger Chris Banghart has an appointment with his favorite doctor.
What are you doing at school now?
The man, he says, helped save his life.
You know pretty well what to expect.
Dr. Carl Williams is one of the top cosmetic and hand surgeons in Las Vegas.
So we're going to go ahead and do a treatment today, right? Okay.
Nevertheless, he chooses to donate a large chunk of his time to people who don't pay a dime. Dr. Williams helps former gang members, like Chris, get a fresh start by removing their tattoos with a laser.
I'm from Chicago originally, and I come from an inner city neighborhood. And there was a lot of gang members in my own neighborhood when I was growing up. You ready, Chris?
I'm ready.
I can relate to the kids. I can carry on. I think they don't look at it as me being the doctor or an authority figure. It's somebody that can actually communicate with them and kind of talk the talk. Sometimes, as you know, Chris, you might get just a little bleeding there, and we'll put a little Band-Aid over that for you.
Dr. Williams has come a long way since his childhood as a poor boy in a tough neighborhood. He now lives in a very different environment. And because of his success, Dr. Williams feels he owes a debt to the world.
Just think about as I grew up, the people that kind of gave to me. And I think that if you can just help one person or be a role model for one particular individual, that just kind of multiplies, you know, and it becomes exponential over a period of time.
Dr. Williams is also trying to send a message to kids in Las Vegas who feel they have no choices, that staying out of gangs is a way out of hopelessness.
Unbelievable, Chris. I mean, it's just fading away.
So far, Dr. Williams has successfully treated 60 gang members using a laser to remove their tattoos bit by bit.
Okay, what it's doing is it's creating a pulse that actually explodes the dye. And let's say you have 1 million particles of dye within that particular tattoo. What it does is it goes in and explodes and destroys and creates particles, maybe about 500,000 of the particular particles, and then the body resorbs those. Okay, let's get your ice down now. Oh. It just goes on exponentially depending on how sophisticated the dye is. You all right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome.
The process may require as many as 15 treatments and take up to 3 years, but the outcome is well worth the wait.
This was my hands before my first treatment, which I believe was 2.5 years ago. And as you can see, they're very, 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 very dark and very unattractive and just very noticeable. And now they're not that noticeable and they're really fading.
Chris Banghart's gang tattoos are almost gone. And now, revisiting his old neighborhood, his gang-banging days seem unreal.
If I didn't get out of the gang, I could either be dead, or I could be in jail, or I could just be at the same spot I was when I was in the gang, doing nothing and having no job and no education, no nothing.
Now he has a second chance. Perhaps he'll make a difference in others' lives, as Dr. Williams did in his.
Weather advisory from the Weather Service. There will be a flash flood watch until 9 p.m. for the Lake Mead, Lake Mojave area.
In the middle of an otherwise sunny afternoon, the rangers at Lake Mead National Park are suddenly notified of a storm heading towards the area.
Lake Mead Marine's that way and so's the dam. You realize the storm cell's moving in, right? Maybe you might want to drive to the dam. Go ahead and keep the boys in their life jackets, all right?
Weather in this region is prone to freak storms that can endanger the lives of visitors to the park. Flooding, high winds, and big waves put both hikers and boaters in jeopardy.
Unfortunately, somebody out here in a very small boat who panics may decide to run back to the harbor instead of going into shore into a safe cove. And they're not experienced boat operators, many of them. So we'll end up in a rescue mode where we have to actually come out here and do search and rescues.
Rangers perform 300 to 400 search and rescues every year. They patrol the vast area in any way they have to, by land, air, or sea.
There's about 850 miles of dirt road in this park, and people will have accidents out there, and sometimes those are over ravines or things like that, maybe not paying as much attention as they should to their driving.
They're like, well, I'm here by a tall cliff, and it's like, our dispatch has to play 20 questions, like, well, where is this tall cliff? Where did you launch from? How long did you approximately travel to? And just, you have to keep hunting for the answer to get these guys to tell them where you're at.
It's easy to get lost and hard to get found.
I mean, if we find out there's somebody missing, we don't wait to start looking. We do that day, we do that night, we do that in the calm, we do that in lightning storms, we do that in hailstorms, heavy winds. Whatever the weather is, we're out here to do that. We'll put our lives on the line to go out and find somebody if we know that they're out there and that their life is in danger.
This day, the storm warning was canceled. The flash flood watch called off. Tomorrow, the Rangers may not be so lucky. And once again, their lives will be at risk. In Las Vegas, the sun almost always shines. It's one reason why the rate of skin cancer is higher than most other places. And the age of those getting it is often much younger. Crystal Duke was still a teenager when she developed her first lesion. 2 new growths were removed and biopsied. The test results are expected to reveal if she needs more surgery to get all of the cancer.
Test back, we've got all the cancer out.
Okay.
All the slides are clear.
Good.
Very
It's
good.
just the basal cell?
Basal cells and just the way we want it to be.
Good.
This time, Crystal was lucky. But she will always be at risk.
Hi. It's good.
Is it what they say?
For Crystal, the chances of getting more abnormal growths are very high.
I was worried. I was really worried.
And that could lead to the most deadly skin cancer of all, malignant melanoma. The number of cases is growing rapidly all over the country.
If you look at the statistics from about 1935, about 1 out of every 1,500 people would get melanoma. This year, we think it's about 1 out of every 70 people will get melanoma. The fastest growing skin cancer there is.
It's something that's just not going to stop. I'm going to have to deal with it for the rest of my life. It could happen 20 more times, it could happen 5 more times, but it's an ongoing thing that I will deal with forever now.
For Paul Dreyer, this hospital brings back terrifying memories. After both of his suicide attempts, doctors at this emergency room saved his life.
Took me off of the ambulance, strapped to a gurney. I had to secure my hands because they felt that I was a danger to myself.
After his second attempt, something changed in him forever.
I had one visitor, which was my brother. He came in and we talked for maybe 15, 20 minutes. And the conversation that we had in that 20 minutes went along the lines of, you know, if you were not here anymore, I'd be alone. And it was just very emotional seeing the two of us sitting there talking. And so that was it for me. I wasn't going to be doing this again. That was the end of the road for me with that.
From that moment, Paul turned his life around. He went back to school, got married, and started a family.
Can't think of a period of time in my life where I've been happier. This is it. You know, I got a wife, child, finally completed my degree. Yeah, this is it.
Lifeguard 2 from another base in Pahrump is coming here to drop off a patient.
A new patient is just being flown into Valley Hospital from the Flight for Life base at Pahrump, 40 miles west of Las Vegas.
Sir, we're going to pull you out, okay?
He wasn't answering any questions. He was confused. He was yawning. It looked like the right side of his face was starting to droop a little bit. And so they got real concerned. They called us. Head on, sir.
The patient is a 67-year-old man, unable to communicate. He may be having a stroke.
Sir, squeeze my hands. There's a universal language that you share with people from all over the world as far as pain, and you can see on their face whether they're having pain or not. Tighter. Squeeze my hands. Okay. We're almost there. When somebody's critically hurt, the language is to get them to the hospital as soon as you can.
For this patient, Flight for Life was literally a lifesaver. For the brave men and women who rescued him, it was another day on the job.
Somebody looked at me and said, you know, do you realize that you get in a helicopter, you fly to treat somebody that you absolutely don't know, and you're putting your life on the line for that person? And I don't know if you had to look at that every time that you went on a helicopter, I don't know if you would do it, but it's not an issue. You love to fly, you love to treat people.
The cycle goes on every day, which is exactly what these angels of the air live for. They don't know what emergencies they will face or what the outcome may be. After all, it's Las Vegas. Who knows what the next spin of the wheel will bring?